Bob Dylan also has a storied past here in Wisconsin.
And Madison Magazine columnist Doug Moe shares the singer's memorable stops in Madison. Online, a great story.
Good to see you.
Hi, you guys. Good to see you.
So, Bob Dylan lived here briefly.
Yeah, back in 2001, I read a long story in the New Republic by a guy named Ron Radosh. It was more of a memoir of his, but he was a student here. He came here to study history under George Mossey. He was from New York City. But he told in the magazine about a kid showing up on his doorstep essentially with a guitar, and it was Dylan. And so I got in touch with Radosh and went and tried to follow up on it. Ended up writing a column 15 years ago about the time he spent a couple of months here in 1960 in the winter into the spring. Radosh lived on Hawthorne Court. He couldn't remember even the name of the street. He said, there's this little alley off State Street. You know, I said, it's got to be Hawthorne. He says, the Brat House still there? I said, no, it's State Street Brats now. But
Did
anyway,
Radosh rent him a house on Willie Street?
Well, he couldn't. Radosh didn't have any room, so he knew another guy on Mifflin Street that
Mifflin
did.
Street, yeah.
And so Dylan and his guitar went over there. And Radosh told me that he would see him occasionally. There was a place called The Pad on State Street, Beatnik Coffee House that opened in 1959. And Ben Sidran told me he loved it because they let the musicians charge sandwiches. You know, the guy named Murray Weiner owned it. Anyway, Dylan would play there, and they all would. And one time, Radosh told me that they went out to the Union Terrace, as we do today, and just kind of talking about this and that, and Dylan kind of got a faraway look in his eye and turned to Radosh and said, you know, I'm going to be a bigger star, or as big a star as Elvis Presley. And Radosh sort of said, singing Woody Guthrie songs?
Yeah, good luck.
And now he's won the Nobel Prize. And he returned for concerts here in Madison many times.
Yeah, he came back, and I wrote originally on line 65, Stu Levitan, the oracle of everything Dylan, corrected me that it was actually November of '64 at the Orpheum, and he actually got booed when he picked up an electric guitar. So he didn't come back again until '78, and I write about that one in the piece, because Mayor Soglin, in his first incarnation as mayor, declared November 1st, 1978, Bob Dylan Day.
I think we have a picture of that with the legendary Wisdom DJ Charlie Simon, and there's Paul Soglin.
Sure.
Jonathan W.
And
Little.
Jonathan Little, yeah.
Yeah, and some record company guys. That's
a great picture.
I wrote about that too about 10 years ago, maybe 2006, because a guy called me up and said, you got to see this picture on eBay. It's signed by Dylan. It's in Madison in 1978. It's signed to somebody named Charlie. Who's Charlie? And I was able to track down Charlie Rock and Roll Simon. His real name is Larry Goodman. And he left Madison from WISM he had been at, and he went out and sold radio time in San Diego. Very successful career doing that. And his wife at some point said, you got to start unloading all this rock and roll stuff. And I did a column on him when he traded a piece of the Otis Redding airplane that he had to the Hard Rock Cafe in Vegas for a Paul McCartney signed guitar.
Wow.
So if you go to the Hard Rock in Vegas, you'll see that one wing from the Redding airplane. Yeah. Wow. And yeah, Charlie Simon, Larry Goodman had that. And another thing he put up on eBay was the Dylan photo, and it went for $436.
I was just going to ask you.
What a fascinating story. You can read much more about it on madisonmagazine.com. Doug, pleasure as always.
Thanks, you guys.
Great to see you.
Good to see you.